Pokemon Black and White have become highly respected games over the years. Shout out to those who liked it before got all this love, and Poketubers have analyzed the living daylights out of it. This sounds great and all, but it meant something very different for me. I wanted to make a video about Black and White, especially with an analytical approach, since I really love those games, but I couldn't think of an idea that hasn't been done before. But then my non-existent assistant pointed out something to me. He wanted to watch content on Black and White too, but there's a real lack of content on it, which makes me wonder, are these entries into the franchise not as respected as the originals? It does make sense, after all Black and White dealt with the questions of being, too black and white. And on the surface, Black 2 and White 2 can look like a confusing mess. After that, what is its point? Especially as its themes seem to be a bit more plain compared to Black and White. So I decided to set out on a journey, one of much analysis and careful deduction, and the results, well, Pokemon Black 2 and White 2 is so much better than what people make it out to be, and let's get into how. First off, we need to understand what is the point of a sequel in the first place. Typically, it's used to show us what has happened since we've last seen the story and its characters, so it's a sort of extended epilogue that leaves you fulfilled at the end. However, sequels often fall flat if the first game covered its themes already, and it doesn't really need much more delving into. So Pokemon saw this and they decided not to expand those themes of Black and White. Instead, they went for a much more simple Black and White route, as in literally portraying good versus evil, which is an odd choice, especially after the main games sort of conveying that maybe things are a bit more gray than they seem, right? Well, that's what it seems like anyways. But if you want to take a bit of a deeper look into it, you'll see that instead of choosing to expand the original game's themes, they took a different theme that builds on it, or more specifically, a progression of it. And let's see if you could guess what that theme is when my non-existent assistant gives this example.
After Black and White, 2 years later, we find the characters doing mostly new things. Cheren is now a bashful gym leader, after being your intellectual yet kind-hearted rival. Team Plasma mostly went on to do better things, while others had chosen to continue their criminal activity.
So from that, can you guess? Probably not, so I'll give another hint. The first games handled the concept of not being too black and white, and 2 years later, we see the results of that. Well, I think I pretty much gave it away at this point, but in case you couldn't tell, Black 2 and White 2's themes is of growth. Let's see what I mean. Many of the gym leaders went on to take up their passions and interests that maybe they have put on the side before, allowing room for new opportunities to take place now. Your rivals went on to take steps into adulthood, getting a proper feel of the real world. On the other hand, you see Team Plasma split off into two groups. One that realized their mistakes and wrong approach towards their goals, while the other that never properly recognized those goals, led under Colress. Do you see what I mean yet? At first, each character was struggling with their truth and ideal at first, but now they've come up with their own conclusion, and whether or not that is a good or bad thing is up to them, which I'll get more into soon. Pokemon characters are normally very static, but here they have their personalities on full display, which dictates their decisions. It is this decision process of what you believe to be right that is shown to us in Black 2 and White 2. Pokemon doesn't typically do other points and times for their games, granted the Legend series is kind of changing that, but for the most part, you see that there must have been a reason for them to choose this approach, right? Why would they randomly not do the expected gray version and go for something just so out there? There must have been something that they wanted to explore, some new idea or some new concept, and this was it. Or at least, this was part of something bigger. Besides a few new areas, the region doesn't actually change all that much, which highlights the character's change. If you take the unimportant aspects, add less contrast and saturation to it, and add a bit more blur to it, then it brings out the center of attention to full display. Okay, remember how I said each character's choice of what they want to do may be good or not, which I'll get more into soon. Well, now let's look at that a bit deeper. The best example I could think of is Roxy's father, originally a sailor who decided his dream was to be an actor. Needless to say, he became a sailor again. He had a dream, his truth/ideal, yet that didn't come to fruition. In fact, you can see that with Cheren and Bianca too. They realized their original goals weren't well for them. They saw us, the player character, and mistook our dreams for their dreams. But that was never their reality, or, well, their truth. The gym leaders too decided that being a gym leader wasn't their truth either, like Bryson becoming an actor, contrast to Roxy's father, and Lenora focusing on her museum. Some decided both were their thing, like Elisa and Berg, who decide to mix both of their arts and their gym battles coming together. Every one of them took a different approach, which signifies growth. A decision made that no longer is boxed in the black, white, and gray outlook. They are all themselves, which is a further exploration of the themes of Black and White. Obviously, half of Team Plasma is still an enemy, but that was their choice too. Teaches us a lesson to do what we genuinely believe in and not get caught in others' ideals. Even if our mission may be the same, our approaches differ. And in fact, they should differ. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, you'll probably like this one too. Have a wonderful day. Bye!